Okay, so we are back and we're going to continue the discussion about dodgy double glazing and the faults we've got with ours, and we're going to have a look at the various trade organisations or consumer organisations that deal with double glazing. For any of you that missed the video I posted some weeks ago, we ordered some it was a front door, an internal front door. We have two front doors on our property, and this was to replace the inner one with a high security front door with side and frames above. Placed the order in November, £3,000. It was installed in February. Within a couple of days we noticed that the inside of the glass sealed units were covered in marks. As I say, I have to emphasise this was on the inside. I'm not talking about the inside, inside the house, on that, it actually internally to the glazed unit, so actually inside the sealed unit. Supplier or fitter came out, confirmed that they were faulty and they would be changed. Also sent out the manufacturer's representative, because I think the door was made in Ireland. He came out, also confirmed that that was not acceptable. Waited until April, and another fitter came out, made a complete pig's ear of the replacement. We've got trim hanging off. It's a real mess. However, the sealed units are as bad as the original ones, as I've said in various letters to them, to the point where you have to question whether the original sealed units just got put back in by mistake and he took the good ones away, because they're equally as bad. Then they came out again and ordered two more. In July they turned up and had left the two sealed units touching each other in the back of a hot van, and the adhesive they use around the edge of the sealed units had melted, and both sealed units were bonded together, so they couldn't be fitted and they had to go off back to the head office. In the meantime, whilst I had been waiting for them to turn up that day, I had decided to clean the rest of the windows and the side panels, etc. And that's when I noticed that actually all of these sealed units have all these funny scratches / marks on them. And whilst they were here explaining how they couldn't fit the two new units, I said, well, when you get back to your head office, would you mind getting them to give me a call so we can discuss exactly why there's marks all over this door. So that's what happened. We heard nothing for a few weeks, and then we got a letter demanding the balance of £443, I think it is, something like that. And it also said that they wouldn't be coming back, they wouldn't be putting anything right, and if we didn't pay up within 7 days, they would, failure to do so will result in Olivair seeking payment through a third party. And that was back when, well, unfortunately they put the 43rd of July down on that letter. So yeah, it was either the 4th or the 3rd, I would assume, from that. I wrote back a detailed letter explaining what their obligations were, and the fact that all of the panels are marked on the inside. I also explained that they do not meet the requirements of Section 4 of the Glass and Glazing Federation guidelines, which we'll cover in a minute, actually, because there's an interesting part of this story there. So that's the basics. We've never heard from them. They haven't contacted us. They haven't replied to my emails. They haven't replied to my signed for letter, which has been delivered about 3 weeks ago. So I've been looking into what you can do in this circumstance. So the first thing we've done is we've gone back to their website, and we've had a look at their logos here. Now, Fencer is an organisation for window or double glazing. They also issue a certificate to say that the installation has complied with the various building guideline regs and that sort of thing. And you need that if you ever come to sell your house. You'll need some proof that the installation has been done correctly. And the supplier, Olivair in this case, show that there's no link. It's not a a clickable link or anything. There's another one here called CIN. I'd had no idea what that was until I looked it up. And then English Door, Evolution and Ultraframe, I think, are just 3 suppliers of various double glazing doors and frames and whatever, so they're not even relevant to us, but these 2 are. So Fencer, you can contact them with a complaint and they will deal with it, mediate between you and the installer. However, when I phoned them last week, the guy he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He clearly didn't want to be working there that particular day and was really very, very unhelpful. But I got the basics out of him and he said, "Do you have a certificate number?" And I said, "No, we don't have a certificate number because we're in dispute with this company and they haven't issued a certificate for the work." And he turned around and said, "Well, unless you've got a certificate for the work, we can't help you, so there's nothing we can do." Well, clearly they're not going to go give a certificate for the work until they have been paid, so that particular organisation is utterly useless for this particular situation. And I'm sure we're not alone in withholding a small final payment when we are not happy with this company's work whatsoever. This has been going on since February, when it was first installed, and so unless you've got a certificate you cannot go to Fencer. Now if you don't have a certificate and you've had Windows installed, or if this company, let's say this company refused to ever issue a certificate for us, well, you can go to the local buildings regulations department at the council, and you can have a buildings inspector, I think, come out and check that everything is okay, and then you can get a certificate through them, I believe. I'm not sure of the costs, but if we have to go down that route we will be charging any fees like that to Olivair. So then I thought, well, okay, that's useless. Let's have a look at the CIN. Now I did a few investigations, and it turns out that that stands for Certified Installer Network, and if we just change to another double glazing company's website, we'll see here, it doesn't matter whose website this is, but because all I'm looking at is what is the Certified Installer Network, and there's no links. I can't find anything online to it, but this particular company has a copy of the Certified Installer Network Charter, which you can click on and download, and again, bugger all information about who they are, this network, apart from a few basics here. They'll belong to a, the installer will belong to a governing body like Fencer or Certas or similar, and there's quite a few out there. All seem pretty powerless, having looked at the reviews online of all of them. All members supply and install products in accordance with building regulations, along with appropriate liability insurance. It's just what you would expect a normal installer to be doing. There's nothing very interesting there. All members will only make reference to the Certified Installer Network in relation to products manufactured within CIN and the A and B glass group. Now that's interesting. I hadn't read that bit earlier, because the second link on this installers page says you can download their certificate, and there it is, membership number, etc. That ScanMe doesn't work for me, but it could be that it's on this bigger monitor. But it's actually signed for by A and B Glass Group, and if you do a search for them, they just seem to be a manufacturer of double glazing and units and things like that. So again, that doesn't seem to be a lot of use. If you go to A and B Glass, there's no reference to that scheme that I could see, and there's no dispute process. So we are back to having absolutely no protection whatsoever. Now if we go back to the bottom of one of their letters, you've got the fencer registration or registered company there, and you've also got this Consumer Protection Association. Now I've phoned them, and they are there in case this company goes bust or disappears with your deposit and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like a holiday booking where your deposit is protected, and if you've got a 10-year warranty and you have a fault but the company went bust 8 years ago, the Consumer Protection Association will be there to hopefully assist. There is nothing they can do in this situation. They are there purely to protect you if the company has disappeared or is not fulfilling their obligations as far as delivery of the goods or warranty is concerned. So we've pretty much got absolutely nothing from Olivair's website. There's no protection from Fencer without certificate number, and this company are of no use, or this organisation are of no use unless this company has gone bust or that sort of thing. So now what? Well, interestingly, one of the things they sent to me was, and this is from the Glass and Glazing Federation, this is the exact sheet of paper they sent to me, and they're basing their argument on a visual quality standard, and it basically says what's acceptable and what isn't, and any marks and things, if you can't see them from further than 2 meters away in natural daylight and at 90 degrees to the panel, then it doesn't count as a fault. Now for us, you can see these marks on the 2 door panels from halfway up the hallway, which is about 15 foot away, so they cannot rely on this. Well, they might be able to rely on it, but the marks do not fall within the specification. Now here's the interesting thing. They're relying on information from the Glass and Glazing Federation, but they're not even a member of the Glass and Glazing Federation. I find that quite amusing, that they're sending out documents to rely on, but they're not actually a member. Very interesting, I thought that was. Okay, so as I said, there are various other trade organisations, and you can look them all up. The Glass and Glazing Federation seems to be a big one, especially if they are relying on their regulations, but they're not a member. Fencer, Certas was another one. That's the Glass and Glazing Federation's website, and they talk about what they do, etc., etc. And as I say, Olivair are not a member of that organisation, but other companies obviously will. They have a finder, I think, a member finder. So I'm going to just close that one down. Or maybe I closed the wrong one down there. So certified installer network, no use to us whatsoever. Here's a bit of a laugh. The Fencer organisation gets 2.1 stars with 30 Google reviews. Pretty damning, I think. A lot of 1 stars saying that they've been absolutely useless, and I will be adding to that at some point to say, yeah, without a certificate they won't even help you or become interested in any case. This was another window company just talking about, is a certificate, a Fencer certificate, a requirement, and yes it is, or a building regs certificate. You need one or the other when you come to sell your home. So let's go back to what you can do. So I've notified them that the marks in the windows break the Glass and Glazing Federation regulations, or they do not fall within that 2 metre further away rule. So as we've not heard anything from them, we've obviously had to take further action. Now, what can you do? Well, we paid a deposit on a credit card, and then we paid the balance just before installation. Well, it wasn't the full balance, it was the bulk of it. We paid that by a debit card, and then we would have paid the final 443, I think it is, by debit card as well. Now, because you've paid some of it by credit card, the credit card company is jointly and severally responsible for that transaction in the full amount. So if you've paid between £100 and £30,000 and you've paid some of it by credit card, that company is fully responsible for that full amount. So I think we paid a deposit of £1,327 by card. We then paid a 40%, a balance just before it was installed of £11.80. That was on debit card, and then we were due to pay £443 after we were happy with the installation. So you can go to your credit card company. There's two ways of doing this. You can open up a dispute for the transaction. Some banks and credit cards will have an online form you can fill in to start a dispute. If that dispute fails for any reason, they will automatically upgrade that and move it on to a Section 75 claim. Now, Section 75 claim will, as I say, cover you between £100 and £30,000. And I think we've uploaded enough evidence. We've got video footage, we have photos, we've got the trim hanging off. We've had no response in any way from the company concerned, and I suspect a Section 75 claim is where it will end up. I don't see any reason why we should not be successful claiming that money back. Now, this still leaves us with the faulty glass, and obviously you have to try and mitigate your losses if this ever ended up in a court case. Now, mitigating your losses means, is there something that we can do to minimise the costs, etc., of what's going on? So with that in mind, I contacted some big double glazing companies in our area, one of them who we have used before, and the question was, would you come out and give us a price to replace the glaze units in this door? I didn't explain what was going on fully, but as soon as I mentioned Olivair, the two companies I have spoken to said no, we do not want to touch their installation at all. They suggested that I could go somewhere else and have sealed units made up myself, but I'm not a double glazing installer, so it's not something that I think that we should be going down that road. So I can't mitigate my losses by getting another company out, having the two faulty panels changed at a minimum, and then charging that work, the cost of that work to Olivair. So I'm unable to mitigate the losses, so I believe we would be entitled to a full refund. That would allow us to have Olivair's work removed and a new door with panels to the side and above fitted by another company, and at that point they would be notified that the doors etc. are here for them to collect, and if they don't collect them within 7 or 14 days they will be disposed of. Obviously that would need to be sent via email and signed for delivery letter, just to be absolutely sure. And that's that really. So there's really nowhere else to go with a company like this. And I have to say a couple more things. Everybody looks at these adverts and it says, oh, we're a family. Let me click on it. Olivair Home Improvements is a family-run business. Yeah, and I'll tell you, I've always had problems with, and that's family-run businesses, and I'll tell you why. If you get a problem, at some point the owner of this family business is going to take it personally, and that's exactly what's happened in this case. He thinks now he can just ignore us and not do anything. If this was a bigger company, perhaps it isn't family owned, then it is purely business. It is not something a person is going to take what's going on personally. We've had this before with a caravan company. I can't even remember, we're out towards Cambridge. We had a problem with some unnecessary work that they had done. Actually, it wasn't unnecessary, it was necessary, but it was under warranty and they charged us. And as soon as I questioned that, the owner of the company got stroppy and it was all very unpleasant, and eventually he turned around and said, well, now we're not going to look after your caravan that you bought from us for £26,000, you can take it elsewhere. Another example of using a family run business really, in my opinion, is not a good idea. Use a company that is not run by a family, because it then is purely business and no one's going to be taking it personal unless you're rude to people. And we haven't been rude to anybody here. We've just stated what we believe is our rights to a good fitted door at £3,000 without all the visible scratches, and they've had an attempt to fit it originally, and now they've had 2 further attempts to put it right, and we do not need to wait any further before we take action. The other course of action you could take is to go down the county court route. We could give them notice that we are doing that, but I think it's going to be easier to go down the section 75 route first of all. May well end up in a county court at some point. If the section 75 claim is not successful, then it will definitely go down the county court route, and you must be seen to be acting reasonable in all of these things. You've got to give businesses time to put things right. You shouldn't be making unreasonable demands. Certainly try and be polite all of the time, which I believe we have done, even in the face of provocation when I happened to be reviewing video footage and I found that one of their fitters smoking and spitting on the ground in our property. That's on YouTube. The only thing they have done, Olivair, is to obviously they've reported that to whoever the guy was that was doing it, and he's contacted YouTube with a privacy claim, so I had to blur out the... Well, I didn't have to blur it out. I could have argued that that's filmed on private property, and if I want to show it I can, but it just wasn't worth the aggro. It was the very fact that somebody was smoking on our premises and spitting on the ground. It's a particularly disgusting thing to do, and this will be going on YouTube like all of the other things. A couple of other things I wanted to mention. Do make sure that you pay 30-40 quid for legal help on one of your insurance policies, whether it's your home insurance policy, your car insurance, or your buildings insurance. They all offer legal help for 30 to 40 quid a year. I've lost count how many times I've had to ring our legal helpline over the last couple of years, whether it be the neighbours cutting our trees down whilst we were on holiday, this double glazing situation, the fire that we had in the kitchen last year. I have used it quite a lot, and they may well take this case over for us, and they may well take over the case. They're looking into it at the moment for the tree damage that was done. Again, separate video a few weeks ago now. So do have legal help line cover in place. It is very, very useful, and will quickly pay for itself if you've had help over 1 or 2 phone calls. I mean, even one phone call from with some help offered is going to be a hell of a lot more expensive than 40 quid. So get that in place and speak to them and use it. So yeah, that's where we are. We'll update you over the course of the next month or so, and see how this ends up. But don't rely on these trade organisations that these companies say they're members of. Fencer, yeah, great. A lot of complaints on their Google page, and of no use without a certificate. And if they won't issue a certificate without you saying that you're happy with everything and paying up in full, then you've got nowhere to go with Fencer. It's a ridiculous situation. It should be the exact opposite. If they haven't issued a certificate, you need to be able to complain, because they're using that as a sales point on their website, saying, yeah, look, we're a member of Fencer, so you can trust us. Well, in fact, it seems the exact opposite is the case. That one, yeah, of no use. So yeah, be very careful who you are dealing with, and what associations they are members of, and also check that those associations have some teeth to get into a problem, because most of them seem not to. So yeah, there we go. That's a lengthy update. Sorry about that, but I wanted to get a few things across and just explain what you can do. Obviously keep copies of all emails, all signed for letters that you've posted with dates. Just keep all of that safe, because if it does end up in court, the one thing the court, or one of the things the court wants to see, is a timeline, an accurate timeline with no guessing. It's all there, bang bang bang, this is the date, this is when, this is how, and that is going to be a big help if it ever gets to the small claims court, and we'll see whether it does or not. And keep your receipts, always keep the receipts, so you've got proof. We've got the credit card statement as well from November 2020, so we've got absolutely everything. The timeline is all here. Anyway, look, got problems with your double glazing, just have a think about what I've said here and deal with it accordingly. But there's absolutely no reason to put up with a shoddy installation and a company that just ignores you. Totally unacceptable.